Glad you could be with us again on our news desk. Here are the headlines. A Zambia army officer in Kabwe has shot dead his wife before taking his own life. Musician Chama Fumba, popularly known as Pilato, has been remanded at Kamwala Correctional Facility after his police bond was revoked by the Lusaka Magistrate Court for missing court. Health Minister Chitalu Chilufya says government has spent 129 million kwacha on the cholera outbreak. Another news in detail with the news. My name is Machamanda. A Zambia army officer of Chindwin Barracks in Kabwe has shot dead his wife before shooting himself dead. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo has identified the Zambia army officer as Pethias Mwape, aged 42, a warrant officer class 1, and his wife as Constable Esther Mulowa, aged 33, who was working in the Criminal Investigations Department. Ms. Katongo says Mwape is reported to have shot dead his wife on 16th May 2018 between 20 hours and 22 hours using a pistol. She says this followed a marital dispute that ensued between the couple. Ms. Katongo says Mwape decided to take his own life after realizing that police were looking for him. She says the bodies of the deceased are in Kabwe General Hospital mortuary.
We received a report of murder and suicide in which a warrant officer class 1 of Chindwin Barracks identified as Pethias Mwampe, aged 42, shot dead his wife, a woman constable identified as Constable Mulowa Esther, aged 33, who was working in the Criminal Investigations Department in Kabwe, at Kabwe Central. The warrant officer is reported to have shot dead his wife using a pistol yesterday between 20 hours and 22 hours after a marital dispute. After realizing that the matter had reached the police, Mwape also shot himself dead. Both bodies have been picked and are in Kabwe General Hospital mortuary. We received a report of murder and suicide in which a warrant officer class 1 of Chindwin Barracks identified as Pethias Mwampe, aged 42, shot dead his wife, a woman constable identified as Constable Mulowa Esther, aged 33, who was working in the Criminal Investigations Department in Kabwe, at Kabwe Central. The warrant officer is reported to have shot dead his wife using a pistol yesterday between 20 hours and 22 hours after a marital dispute. After realizing that the matter had reached the police, Mwape also shot himself dead. Both bodies have been picked and are in Kabwe General Hospital mortuary.
Meanwhile, a female traffic police officer who braved heavy rains in Osaka to control traffic between the intersection of Ben Bella and Lumumba roads has earned herself a promotion from the police command. Charity Nanyangwe has been promoted to the rank of sergeant. Her dedication to duty won the hearts of many, with pictures of her controlling traffic while soaked during a heavy downpour going viral on social media, to the extent of drawing the attention of the police command. Musician Chama Fumba, popularly known as Pilato, has been remanded at Kamwala Correctional Facility pending ruling on his application to have his police bond restored. Yesterday, police executed the bench warrant issued against Mr. Fumba upon his arrival from South Africa, where he went in self-imposed exile when he was supposed to be appearing in court in the matter in which he is jointly charged with 5 others, with 1 count of disobeying lawful orders after they staged a protest against the purchase of 42 fire tenders at a cost of 42 million United States dollars. When the matter came up in the courts today, Magistrate Mwaka Mikalile revoked Mr. Fumba's police bond for missing court, and Mr. Fumba told Magistrate Mikalile that he left the country after receiving threats over his song titled Koswe Mumpoto, and not that he wanted to stay away from institutions of justice. He said threats included voice calls from unknown people, SMSs and WhatsApp messages, and videos telling him how he was going to be dealt with over the song. He further told the court that he was under the protection of Amnesty International when he left the country, who had written to the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, on what he was going through. Mr. Fumba availed the court-recorded video threats and a copy of a letter from the Amnesty International, which was sent to the DPP as evidence. He then, through his lawyer, Keith Mwemba, applied to the court that his police bond be restored on grounds that his life was under threat when he left the country. But the state objected to the police bond application, further asking the court to deny him bail, saying he was a flight risk. In response, Mr. Mwemba argued that the accused made himself available in the country and will from now onwards attend court when required. He further argued that it was illogical for the state to bring on issues of bail when they did not arise in the application. Magistrate Mekalile has since set May 21, 2018 as the date for ruling on the application for the restoration of police bond. Meanwhile, all the 6 accused have pleaded not guilty to disobeying lawful orders, and the 3 of the accused, Laura Miti, Sean Tembo and Louis Mwape, have vowed to continue exposing ills in the country.
Our hope is that justice shall prevail, but I think as individuals that have been keen to demand for accountability, our work continues, and we hope that we shall continue to demand for accountability so that the resources for this country are preserved and reserved for the better benefit of the wider population of this nation.
As you've seen, it seems as if every day there's a new scandal, and now we are looking at a multi-million-dollar house purportedly being built in Swaziland by the president, who happens to be on half salary. The citizens of this country need to understand that this is not a matter that can be fought by a small group of people. The people of Zambia need to stand up and ask for accountability. And meanwhile, we wish our colleague Pilato well for the few days that he's going to be in cells, and we do hope that on Monday he will be granted bond.
And point out the issues of lack of accountability on the part of government. I think going forward, we look forward to the expeditious conclusion of this matter. We believe that we did not commit any criminal offense by us protesting at Parliament. We believe that we were exercising our constitutional right, and we are hopeful that the courts will find accordingly at the end of this matter. With regard to our colleague Pilato, we are hopeful that the police are going to treat him well while he's behind bars in the police cells.
Stakeholders at the just-ended Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, organized National Democracy Summit, have resolved that dialogue and reconciliation, especially between the Patriotic Front and the United Party for National Development, UPND, should take precedence before energies are directed towards the amendment of the Constitution so that the dialogue process is not undermined. In a statement availed to Q News, ZCID Executive Director Monica Kanjimana says delegates were gratified that the Constitution review process has been halted following concerns by stakeholders. She says delegates agreed that government avails the draft refined Constitution to key stakeholders, including the ZCID or similar public platforms, in order for it to become a point of reference and a debate amongst stakeholders in future. Ms. Kanjimana adds that the summit also urged the ZCID to take proactive stance and pursue an engagement agenda with other stakeholders and ensure that dialogue ran side by side with reconciliation. She says participants further recommended that reconciliation should be led by a committee of eminent persons facilitated by ZCID, and that their resolutions inform other follow-up processes such as impending Secretary General's meeting for further refinement and action before submission to the Summit of Presidents in June 2018.
The summit also urged the ZCID to take a proactive stance and pursue an engagement agenda with other stakeholders and ensure that dialogue runs side by side with reconciliation. The participants recommended reconciliation should be led by a committee of eminent persons facilitated by ZCID, and that the resolutions inform other follow-up processes such as the impending Secretary General's meeting for further refinement and action before submission to the Summit of Presidents in June 2018. It has become incumbent upon ZCID that after the initiation of the NDSS in 2015, the institution has continued to grow, and the objectives of the initiative become enriched. ZCID is ready to work with other local and regional stakeholders in responding to critical issues identified for Zambia's dialogue agenda in this regard. ZCID finds reassuring and inspiring the boldness demonstrated by the distinguished delegates at the summit, particularly for exhibiting a give and take character which made it easy for them to resolve critical and contentious issues.
Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya says government will within 14 days declare an end to the cholera epidemic, which broke out more than 7 months ago, affecting close to 6,000 people and killing 114 people countrywide. Dr. Chilufya says a cumulative total of 5,919 cases nationwide and 5,428 cases in Lusaka, including 98 deaths in Lusaka and 114 deaths nationwide, had been reported. Speaking during a media briefing on Zambia's cholera situation and the next steps towards its elimination, Dr. Chilufya says so far 2 cases of cholera have been reported in Kalingalinga in Lusaka. Dr. Chilufya says the outbreak has ended thanks to an effective response by the World Health Organization, United States government, and other agencies who work together to prevent further spread of the disease. And Dr. Chilufya has reaffirmed his ministry's commitment towards eliminating cholera in the country by 2025. He says government has spent 129 million kwacha from the treasury, representing 90% of the monies utilized by the cholera campaign, while 3.3 million kwacha came from different stakeholders.
We saw support from the World Bank, from JICA, the Japanese government. We saw support from all cooperating partners. We saw solidarity during this outbreak. We want to thank everybody that participated in this response. We also want to emphasize that together, under the Health in All approach, we will attain universal health coverage. We will make sure that Zambia eliminates cholera by the year 2025, and we will succeed with the solidarity we saw in the last outbreak. And I'll conclude by asking all of us to be upstanding for a minute to honor those who passed on during this outbreak, and every life is precious. Yes, we're at the end of the outbreak, and we lost 114 Zambians.
And World Health Organization country representative Dr. Nathan Bakyaita says his organization will continue to support cholera preparedness and prevention activities, including implementation of improved sanitation facilities in the country.
We therefore give an account, or as the government gives an account of what has happened today. We realize that within Zambia, we have had a multi-sectoral approach where key sectors have been on board, and we also look forward to having this resolution that will be chaired, that will be tabled at the World Health Assembly, that will call all countries and partners for action and for advocacy. So with those words, I wish to thank you all who've contributed to this fight from the various sectors, and commit that WHO will work to support Zambia and indeed other countries to come up with this multi-sectoral approach, which when it is done should be able to be shared, and then we mobilize resources and commitments that will ensure that we eliminate cholera from this country.
Meanwhile, local government minister Vincent Mwale has assured the public that his ministry will improve the drainage system in various parts of the country. And Water Development, Sanitation and Environmental Protection Minister Dennis Wanchinga has reiterated government's commitment to providing quality water supply.
As a way of improving the quality of water, which is going to be made available to our people. We think that the experiences of 2017-2018 from cholera really will stimulated a lot of other people, and we look forward to working with a number of cooperating partners also who have expressed interest in working with in the water sector.
And so we decided we're going to create a utility company that was going to deal with this business as a business on behalf of the council, a company that was going to be wholly owned by the local authority here in Lusaka. Just like we have Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company, owned by local authorities, but they are operating autonomously. So this is how we're going to deal with solid waste. A resolution was passed in cabinet, and right now we are going through processes of having this company registered. And by next week we should be done with internal legislation that will deal with, how we are going to regulate waste management, because we'll have a company, but government will still remain as.
Ron Member of Parliament Chishimba Kambwili has pleaded not guilty to charges of contempt of court. Mr. Kambwili is alleged to have tampered with evidence in the matter in which he is charged with forgery, uttering false documents and presenting false documents to a public officer case. When the matter came up before Magistrate Sunge Chanda for plea, Mr. Kambwili denied the charge. Magistrate Chanda has since set 28th June 2018 and the 12th July 2018 as dates for trial. Local Government Minister Vincent Mwale says government signed a loan with Sino Construction, a Chinese company, to build markets throughout the country at a cost of $50 million United States dollars. Mr. Mwale says as of 16th May 2018, the Chinese company had already begun taking up sites in different districts in the country in readiness for the construction of the markets. He says the loan will be repaid back through the markets that will be constructed. He says his ministry has since engaged some companies that will help collect money electronically. Meanwhile, Mr. Mwale says the Simon Mwewa market being constructed, but the Zambia Army will be completed in August this year.
Of these markets will begin soon. We intend to decongest town by ensuring that almost each and every constituency in Lusaka has some satellite market that is used to distribute, different farming produce and so on to smaller markets. So we do not have to go to Soweto city market and town to get everything that we need. We want all the 7 constituencies within Lusaka to have all the facilities that they need and be able to trade there. So we can also control in case we've got, we don't see cholera coming back, but should there be any other disease, we can easily control, because things will be done in different areas, everything done in the localities.
The Zambia Union of Nurses Organization, ZUNO, has appealed to Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Administration, Dr. Kenneth Malama, to withdraw the circular stopping nurses and other public service employees employed by the Ministry of Health from working in private institutions. ZUNO General Secretary Frey Michelo says such directives end up frustrating and demotivating nurses and midwives, leading to poor output, thereby compromising service delivery that in the end affects achievement of set developmental goals. Mr. Michelo says the provision in the terms and conditions of service for public service workers do not agree with the directive contained in the circular, as it does not relate to any regulation that prohibits any healthcare provider, be it a nurse or midwife, to engage in any meaningful economical empowerment activities whilst on leave from the public service. He adds that in trying to make ends meet in the face of economical hardships, it is pointless for one to sit home whilst on leave or off government hours. Mr. Michelo says nurses and midwives do not use government man hours to do their private work, but rather use their free time and are not in any conflict with existing terms and conditions of service for public service employees. But Dr. Malama has defended his decision, saying what government is trying to do is to bring sanity in the health sector. He says government is aware that there has been a lot of abuse in terms of service delivery in the public health institutions.
It is common knowledge that there's been a lot of abuse in terms of service delivery in the public health institutions. And one of the reasons is that, number one, the supervisors, if you see the correspondence we've released, we've not released it to the union, we've not released to any association, but to the provincial health directors, medical superintendents, supervisors, warning them that the terms and conditions of service for the public service are very clear. So can you ensure that you account for each and every health worker in your health facility? If a nurse is supposed to be on duty, let them be there and provide a service. We've seen rampant abuse and misuse of government time by us health workers. Yes, people can be innovative, but let that innovation be within what is provided for. We have examples of people actually who just pass through some of the hospitals and off they go to the private health institution to provide a service. We have a situation where someone is supposed to conduct an operation in a public hospital. They are off into a private institution and they are doing that work. We have examples of some pharmacy personnel who are actually in full-time employment with a private pharmacy. That is not correct. What we are saying is let's bring sanity. Government has recruited a lot of health workers over the years. We need to start seeing a difference.
The Patents and Companies Registration Agency, PACRA, has noted the need for banks to widen the scope of assets that they accept as collateral from small and medium-scale entrepreneurs or enterprises in the country. Speaking during a roundtable editors meeting on the movable property registry system, PACRA Assistant Registrar Christopher Mapani says there is need for banks not to rely on fixed assets. Mr. Mapani says the agency is pleased that some banks are accepting a wide scope of assets from SMEs, but that there is need for more banks to start accepting movable property as collateral. He states that, as in matters, the movable property registry system has so far been successful. More needs to be done to raise awareness on the system, and that the media have a critical role to play in doing so. He says PACRA remains committed to innovative strategies that ease doing business and lessen both cost and time in doing business dealings, stating that the movable property registry system is one such innovation. Mr. Mapani says the agency is since working with the Bank of Zambia in educating financial institutions on how they can widen their scope of assets they accept as collateral. He states that this will help SMEs easily access credit.
Borrowers should be able to use whatever assets they have. They should be able to use that as collateral and be able to access loans. It's pleasing to note that some of the banks are already widening the scope of assets that they accept. I'm told, for example, that Stanbic Bank accepts animals as collateral. Our hope is that other banks will follow suit. Of course, we realize that mindset change takes a bit of time. Even the banks will take a bit of time to change. They would rather remain in their comfort zone. But in life, you have to prepare for new challenges. The world is changing, and we hope that they'll be able to also invest and build capacity to accept some of these movable assets. We know that if the capacity was built, and given that this is an opportunity that they can utilize, they should be able to open up and be able to accept some of these assets. So what we have done as PACRA in that regard is we have been, together with Bank of Zambia, we have been holding workshops with financial institutions, training them on how they can come up with tailor-made products revolving around
The Barote Royal Establishment, BRE, has bemoaned the dilapidated state of the road in the Lusaka-Mongo Road. BRE Head of Administration Gambela Nyambe Mwenda has wondered why the road is not being worked on despite several calls on government to do so. The Gambela explains that the road is in a deplorable state from around Kaoma area. He says it is believed that heavy trucks coming from Namibia, Zimbabwe and Botswana en route to Lusaka through Mongo from Sesheke have been using the road as a way of avoiding toll gates on other routes, thereby contributing to damaging the road. More in the following report.
Despite government embarking on massive programs to address the poor road networks in the country, most roads around the country still remain in deplorable states. The case is not different for the Mongo-Lusaka road around Kaoma area. The road has been completely erased, and this situation is worrying the Barose Royal Establishment.
It was tarred, but now it's a gravel. The contractor was supposed to be on that road. We don't know what has happened, whether he has not been paid or what. the works have been stalling. I think is one of the roads which is giving us anxiety. Lusaka Mongu Road itself, from Kaoma to Tateyoyo. It's completely erased. And what we have seen recently is that bigger trucks from Namibia or Zimbabwe or Botswana have decided to come through Mongu using the other side of the road from Sesheke. They are going to Lusaka. It is rumored that they are fearing all those toll gates on the other road. They've decided to come via the road which was not meant for heavy trucks. Now, it is being affected.
Mongu in Western Province is known for basket and carpet weaving. It is also known as a production hub for the best mango and fish in the country, and it is also the country's major rice growing region. It is as a result of all these economic benefits that the town and province has to the country, which has made the Ngambela to be worried over the deplorable state of the road. The Ngambela made the establishment's concerns over the road known to Works and Supply Minister Felix Mutati during his recent visit to Western Province.
It's really, I wish I would persuade you to go back by road to Lusaka.
Top a few.
Knowing that you are too busy, I think one of these days make your findings about this road, Lusaka Mongu Road, from Kaoma to Tateyoyo. It's erased completely. It's just a gravel. And it has been with us for quite some time. We don't know whether the negligence is between the ministry or the contractor, or I don't like to accuse the Minister of Finance because you are no longer a Minister of Finance.
Yes,
I would prefer to call that. But knowing that you are our esteemed visitor here, we are not here for embarrassment. We are here for brotherly talks. So please check on this and find out what is happening to this road.
And the minister stated that there are a number of infrastructure projects in the province that he would get back on the status quo of the Mongu-Lusaka road.
So I can just assure the Kuta that at least that one is now on queue. The King Lewanika University, which has been spoken about, I just want to say that you can leave this with me so that I find out the proper status and where we are on this particular matter, including the issue of the stadium. I need to consult my colleagues within government to know what is actually going in, and then at an appropriate time we may be able to give a response as government.
Considering all the benefits of good road networks, transport and road infrastructure should be accorded priority in the catalogue of developmental projects. It is therefore hoped that this road will soon be worked on. Nakaonga reporting for QTV News.
Sub-Chief Kampumbu of the Tambo-speaking people of Isoka District in Muchinga Province is confident that his chiefdom will attain the open defecation-free status. Our staffer Albert Mpezeni reports from Isoka District that Sub-Chief Kampumbu said this when the community-led sanitation CLTS team under UNICEF paid a courtesy call on him before sensitizing the community on the need to adhere to improved sanitation in his chiefdom. Chief Kampumbu says all the 48 villages in his chiefdom have toilets to avoid the possible outbreak of diarrhea diseases such as dysentery. He says the only challenge to the sanitation efforts made in his chiefdom is lack of access to clean drinking water. He has since requested the government and other stakeholders to consider sinking boreholes in his chiefdom to ease the water challenges. Chief Kampumbu says his subjects depend on shallow wells as their source of water.
Area yandi ndatuma kwendera muri ba village headman yonse uchikwete ichimbusu nanguru sasa afiro kwenda muri punishment kumulipirisha no kwisa umef court sana kuno kwisa
mubaritisha
akira agakoko akweba teka bwekesha hapo na kambi anaisa anatumana kabiri bayo tumani bandi mangu naipira nemwine kulo kuyashiningisho kwebati kwena soona nasanga amatoilet yashebuji.
The availability of sexual reproductive health commodities is problematic in Zambia, as only 34% of these are available in health facilities. A recent research by the Medicines Transparency Alliance, META Zambia, has revealed. META Zambia National Coordinator, Lioka Lioka, tells Q News that according to the research conducted in 132 health facilities in 6 provinces, it was discovered that availability of contraceptives in health facilities was inconsistent. Mr. Lioka says the research also revealed that the antenatal and postnatal commodities were inconsistently available in the public sector and are lowly available in the private sector. He further discloses that the research also revealed that prices for sexual reproductive health commodities were significantly higher in urban private sector facilities than in rural private sector facilities. He says his organization therefore recommends for an improvement to access and provision of sexual reproductive health commodities in both the public and private health institutions. Mr. Lioka says the Alliance further recommends for accurate and efficient delivery of sexual reproductive health commodities by the Medical Stores Limited.
We need to improve the supply chain of sexual and reproductive health commodities. Now, in improving the supply chain of these sexual and reproductive health commodities, we are calling upon Minister of Health through medical stores to be able to provide for supply chain managers that are qualified to be able to manage the logistics in the supply chain system. We know that there are qualified people there, but what we're talking about are the numbers of people. And this transcends from the urban areas to rural areas to ensure that the supply chain system is actually seamless and these commodities are available to all sectors of our population. Okay, so we are also calling for an efficient and accurate delivery system of these commodities across the country. Now, when we talk about the efficient delivery system of these commodities, there are a number of recommendations of how we think that this can actually be done. First and foremost, we are saying that we are recommending that medical stores should be empowered, not only to distribute these medications, but also to undertake the quantification and the procurement of these commodities. Okay, and the reasons for this are many.
Bloggers of Zambia co-founder Richard Mulonga has bemoaned the lack of consultation with stakeholders by government with regards the 3 cyber bills it intends to take to Parliament for enactment. Mr. Mulonga is skeptical that the proposed bills may be an infringement on the freedom of expression. He says the cyber laws may also prevent whistleblowers from exposing government ills through a free online cyberspace. Mr. Mulonga feels government
should respectively. And we have put our concerns forward, and our concerns are that the proposed cyber laws are a major threat to freedom of expression, press freedom, access to information, and generally innovation. Because one, the process of enacting cyber laws in Zambia has been so closed, has been secretive, and there has been no input from stakeholders such as the bloggers, such as journalists, such as the civil society, the church, women, girls, and young people. Why has the process been closed? And what is the content of the proposed cyber laws? Now, we are aware that there's a template that is being used from the SADC community. And it's the same template that Zimbabwe is using, and it's the same template that Tanzania has used to enact those draconian cyber laws, where bloggers, citizens, and journalists have to pay, for example, an annual subscription fee of $930.
Meanwhile, Civil Society Media Aid Zambia (CMEZ) is concerned that some civil society organizations have diverted from their mandate to pushing government's agenda. CMEZ team leader Lonely Tatila says there is need for civil society organizations in the country to remain non-partisan if they are to objectively contribute to resolving the challenges the country is currently facing. And Mr. Tatila has advised the civil society organizations that will be monitoring the Chilanga by-election to do so objectively.
they must be able to ensure that they get into Chilanga, non-partisan stance, and ensure that they speak on behalf of the voiceless, they speak for the people, and even the report that we also give, it will express the wishes of the people. Because most of the time we see civil society, they go on the ground, sometimes they give out something that is different from what the people feel. So if elections are not free and fair, let the civil society be the first people to bring out to say, this is not a free, fair election. And therefore, I'm hoping that as we get into Chilanga, as we deal with issues surrounding governance, civil society will maintain a position of non-partisan.
That item concludes our news, but before we go completely, here is a recap of stories in the headlines. A Zambia army officer in Kabwe has shot dead his wife before taking his own life. Musician Chama Fumba, popularly known as Pilato, has been remanded at Kamola Correctional Facility after his police bond was revoked by the Lusaka Magistrate Court for missing court. Health Minister Chitaluchi Lufia says government has spent 129 million kwacha on the cholera outbreak. That's a wrap for the news. Thank you so much for your time. Keep watching QTV.